What's going on, everybody? So, as you can see from on the screen, we got the Monday Night Raw logo, my Team Raw shirt, my championship belt, which means only one thing. It is time for my review of Monday Night Raw. So, they kicked off with a Judgment Day promo, which they just came out running a usual spiel about the Judgment Day running the place, Damian Priest and them talking down on the Creed brothers. But the gem of this promo was R-Truth, who came out and instead of being like what you think it was going to be, R-Truth wanted revenge for them beating him up and I guess not letting him in the New Day. R-Truth came out as the lovable R-Truth he is, and he thought that was just his initiation into the group, and that he said that hurt those punches. He said they got to get some things changed because those punches they used to initiate him they hurt a lot, and that not only hurt him physically, but it hurt him emotionally. And I'm like, oh, how can you hate on R-Truth like that, man? Let him into the Judgment Day. But but yeah, so this would go on to set up a match, or I guess it was already advertised, but as JD McDonough was the only one in ring gear. But R-Truth would suggest, after JD told R-Truth that he was not a part of the Judgment Day, that he's not in Judgment Day, R-Truth suggested they have a match because everybody had a match where they had someone they was gonna beat up on, but R-Truth didn't have one, so they suggested JD McDonough, and he suggested that the match be a winner leaves Judgment Day. That if he wins, that he's in Judgment Day and JD's out. But if JD wins, obviously that means R-Truth is out, but he's never really was in. And Damian Priest kind of like trying to like say, yeah, that's kind of a good idea, but then, they stopped him, Rhea stopped him and whatnot, and thus we get our first match of the night, which is JD McDonough versus R-Truth, which was it was a pretty good opening match. I ain't gonna lie, this was a nice opening match because it went longer than I expected. And it was actually good. It was actually pretty good. Like, I thought this was going to be like an early, like, text on the phone, kind of sort of watching the show, But actually, I was actually into it. I was like, oh, shit. I wonder what happened if R-Truth lose or R-Truth wins. Like, what's it going to happen? That's what I meant to say. If R-Truth wins, what the heck gonna happen? Like, is JD really gonna be out? Like, this was actually interesting, and they went with that route. They went with the route of JD. R-Truth ended up beating JD like accidentally. It's like they was fighting at the top rope, and R-Truth accidentally put JD and himself through the table and pinned JD to win the match. And later on in the night, he would get made fun of by the Judgment Day for losing against R-Truth. He really didn't get kicked out. They just made fun of him for losing. Like they made fun of him. Like, what if this was true? You would really be out the Judgment Day. R-Truth would be in. We got Nia Jax and Becky Lynch having another promo where Nia Jax was coming out to announce something, but she would get interrupted by Becky Lynch, who wanted to fight Nia right then and now. But Nia, who finally got to her announcement, was going to announce that she was announcing that she was going to be entering the Women's Royal Rumble. But Becky Lynch said, "Cool, nobody cares." And she said what they do care about was that them two finally selling the score. Then Becky kind of like try to add Nia on, saying that the reason why Nia is ducking and dodging they fight is because she knows that if she lose to who she called the best to ever do this, that's who Becky was calling herself, the best to ever do this. She said you'll be on the only, like, you rolled the coattails of being that one night. And now if you lose to me, then you'll be nothing more than the person who lost to the person who's the best to ever do this. saying that she needs the match just as much as she does because she needs to prove that she's just not the person who made the man and became, this indestructible person because of what she did to Becky. But Nia was fired back and said that Becky is the one who needs to prove it and not her, and that do all the goating. Becky kind of sort of almost got Nia to fight, but then Nia said no, that we're not going to do this. Now we're going to do this on my terms. If we're going to fight, and she said that they will fight, and it will be at the Day 1 edition of Monday Night Raw, which I just remembered that's how I was going to open it, so I'm going to do it now after I finish this. But they was going to do it at the Day 1 edition and on her terms, but they would get into a brawl as she was mocking Becky as she was leaving, but Becky would jump out the ring and attack Nia, and then Nia would just forearm her in the back, and that was it. Quickly, what I wanted to say before I forgot it again was that the Day 1 that I didn't realize it until like a couple hours ago that I didn't. I guess Day 1 was supposed to happen this year, this January, but it didn't happen. It got canceled, so they had to reschedule it. And then they was going to reschedule it for this January, but they didn't. Instead, January would have just the Royal Rumble instead of Day 1 and the Royal Rumble, but it will have Day 1 in a sense. I like that WWE is taking the route of NXT, and you can tell this is a Triple H decision, where now certain pay-per-views that were past pay-per-views that for those who haven't watched NXT, certain old pay-per-views like Halloween Havoc and the Great American Bash, stuff like that used to be pay-per-views back in the day, and No Way Out, for example. I don't think they've done that in NXT, but I'm just using that as an example. But they are taking old pay-per-views and making them like special editions of SmackDown of NXT, and now Triple H is introducing that to the main roster by having a Raw and the first Raw and SmackDown of the new year be, I think for Raw it's going to be Monday Night Raw Day 1 edition, and SmackDown, that following SmackDwn going to be Friday Night SmackDown New Year's Revolution, and that's kind of cool because I always wanted to see the return of New Year's Revolution. That was like a cool pay-per-view to me. That always happened in January, but now it's being brought back. Both New Year's Revolution and its replacement Day 1 will happen as special edition. That's kind of cool that we get to see both the old pay-per-view and the pay-per-view that replaced it. So I think that's kind of cool they interjecting that into the main roster. But back to the review. I just wanted to take that little moment to say that because that's how I was going to open up the review, but then I forgot. Then we got the second match, which is The Miz versus Gunther. By far, I think that was like the best match of the night. I really like, as I'm going to go through this, I'm going to try to figure out if there was anything other than any match that was better. And it was a match that was just as good, maybe not better, but just as good, and only because it only had so much time. But this was a good match. This was like the best compelling match I ever seen for The Miz since he became the WWE champion way back when he defeated John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania. For those who don't know, that's like that used to be like Miz's old stick every time he bring up how he became WWE champion for the first time. And he after he beat John Cena, he always kept saying, when I beat John Cena to become the WWE champion in the main event of WrestleMania. But this was a good, compelling match. The near falls, it was so many near falls, and it was perfectly executed to the point where I was literally sitting here like, oh my God, the Miz almost got it. I'm rooting for the Miz. When can you say the last time you actually rooted for the Miz to win something, and not only win, but win the championship? It's been a long time. I don't think I have since when he became WWE champion against John Cena, and the last time he became WWE champion, even though he was a transitional champion. Both times that I wanted to see the Miz be champion because it was long overdue. But that was I loved it. It was cool. This was like by far the best match of the night. Gunther obviously would win, but it was compelling because you know what was on the line. Either he wins and becomes champion, or he loses and can never be champion, can never challenge for the Intercontinental Championship until Gunther drops it. And unfortunately, and I guess obviously, Gunther won the match, and now The Miz can no longer challenge for the title. But that's not the end of Gunther's night. Before we move on, Gunther did go backstage, and as he was greeted with applause for Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni, he would scold them for applauding him, saying that they don't deserve to be celebrating like he is, and that as he would take a few weeks off, and basically until the day. I think he's going to be going to the Day One edition, and I want to say this episode wasn't, but I think the next few weeks, like the next episodes, are pre-taped. I think everything is pre-taped until the 24th. Both this week's Raw and SmackDown might have been pre-taped too. I don't know, but I know they on holiday too, just like everybody else, which is a first because they had no scheduled plans for shows or events, so they have a rare opportunity to have just a holiday where they can spend time with their family. But moving on here because I don't want this to be super long. I'm gonna try. But yeah, where was I? Lost my place. Oh yeah, Gunther scolded him and basically told him that he was going to take a few weeks off, and that they will have to stay and work and try to. By the time he comes back, he wants to be impressed by new, better versions of Ludwig and Giovanni. Then we get to Shinsuke Nakamura's promo where he had a Nightmare Before Christmas where he basically insulted Cody Rhodes, and not only Cody but Dusty Rhodes too. This would lead to this. I guess this wasn't like it could have been like a pre-tape segment that was spliced into a real segment, but you know how WWE do. They could have spliced it together to make it seem like it was a real segment, but what he did was pre-tape. Then they just had him back in the same position in the same lighting to get jumped by Cody Rhodes, because that's what happened. After he got done assaulting Cody Rhodes and basically doing his due, Cody Rhodes would assault him, and they basically were brawled to the outside to the ring, where he almost get ready to put. They were fighting the crowd. And then he would almost put Shinsuke Nakamura through the table, but the security would take him. I would like for that to be more fluid, though, because you could tell he just let them take him instead of them actually forcing Shinsuke away from Cody. So it looked like he actually got forced. They tried to make it seem like he got forced away, but you could tell Cody just let them take him. But other than that, it was a good segment. We got the second championship. No, it was 3 championship matches. I forgot it was Gunther's, this, and then the other tag team. But we got the second of 3 championship matches of the night, which is Katana Chance and Kaden Carter versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, as the announcers like to say. This was good. I knew the outcome because it was kind of time for it. Because I actually wanted it. So this was one of my most interesting matches tonight. This is actually a match I was looking forward to. So kudos to Triple H to actually getting me to look forward to not only a championship match for the Women's Tag Team Championship, but looking forward to an actual tag team winning the championships And this was a good match by far. They gave it a lot of time to sell the match, to get it going. And even the crowd the crowd wasn't really too much into it, but by the end they got into it just a little bit, just enough for that ending to be glorious, as Kaden Carter and Katana Chance would beat Chelsea. Would beat Chelsea almost, where they almost had a couple of pinfalls. It was a couple of fake outs. Like one time when you thought the match was over with and Katana Chance and then was going to win, but it was broken up by Piper or Chelsea. But then Chelsea came in and got beat, basically got double team, finisher herself, and then that's when they actually won. And now you got your new women's tag team champions, Kaden Carter and Katana Chance. Now, to be fair, I actually wanted them to win, because now you could properly build the women's tag team division around them, because they are the ones. They are the legit tag team, so you could build it around them, and now you can make it better. And I know I guess the women's tag team is like the mid card for them. I would like to see a singles mid card title, but that's another story and video for another time. But as I said, good match, and we got new champions. They would have a little backstage celebration promo where they were running to the rest of the women's tag team division, and Tegan Knox and Natalya were getting into it with Shayna and Zoe Stark. I call it Tony. I was gonna say Zoe, but then I thought about Tony Stark. Zoe Stark, and who will be the next people to challenge them. We got a backstage promo revealing that Akira Tozawa has requested a match against Ivar of all people, as taking a suggestion from Chad Gable to go bigger in 2024. But Chad Gable told him like, I told you to go bigger, but not that big. And they went with what's her name, Maxine Dupree at ringside. This was actually a surprisingly good match. It went longer than I thought. And it wasn't like a one-sided match. Akira Tozawa actually held his own against Ivar, to the point where at one point, even me in the crowd, like this was like my bathroom break. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, Akira got the actual chance to win this? So I'm like into it. I'm like, Triple H is doing a good job so far of having matches where I really wasn't into. I don't know about you guys, but me personally, this was the second match of the night where I really wasn't into it, and I got into it by the end of it, because I thought Akira could actually win it. Given my optimism, I knew that he was going to lose, but I'm like, holy crap, he's doing it. But in an actual hard-fought victory, he lost against Ivar, but it was a pretty good match, and it did a little bit for Akira this hour. It made people actually get invested in him. Let's see where they might take him. We got Seth Rollins coming out to cut a promo about after basically saying that after last week he's feeling rejuvenated and he wanted to simply focus on Drew McIntyre. But this will bring out Drew McIntyre, and they will have a conversation, or Drew at least will have a conversation about how he respects Seth Rollins, because he knows what it's like. He's the one person who knows what it's like to have the difficult conversations and the good conversations when it comes to being away from your families and not having to spend time with your loved ones, and that he doesn't want Seth Rollins' championship. He needs it. He needs it to validate him, and needs it to validate all the sacrifices. As I think he talked about, like his mom, like when your parents get sick and they tell you that you want to be there, and tell them that you coming back to be by their side, but they tell you not to chase your dreams, and then all of a sudden they're not here anymore. So that's when he said that's why he needed the championship, to validate all this, and to validate all the sacrifices and lost time. But then he was told by Seth Rollins that we don't know how to feel about you, man. Like, woman, your actions and your words are saying two different things. Your actions are saying that you're a piece of crap, basically, but your words saying that you're a good-hearted person, and he don't know what to believe. But he said you are right about one thing. You are right about one thing. One thing we can agree upon is that I respect you because you did exactly what I told you that you said you was gonna do. That after you lost, you was gonna find a way and work your way back into a championship match, and you did that. And that for that he respects Drew. But he said I stood in this ring last week and told the man that I hate him, and I meant it. And he said, but this week, looking you in your eyes, he said I'm not. He said I don't hate you, I pity you. And this set Drew McIntyre off. As hearing those words, hearing Seth say he pitied him, as he told Drew he would see him in 2 weeks at day one. As saying that he pitied him, Drew attacked Seth Rollins. He attacked him and basically he attacked him and tried to beat him up. Seth Rollins fought back, but then he will fall victim to an Alabama slam on the steel steps, hurting his elbow apparently, setting up a possible injury angle for the championship match. Throughout the night, until I forgot, Kofi Kingston was going around dressing up as Kofi Claus, giving people colds and presents, giving the crowd presents. This I have to mention this because the next match actually involves that. This is like considered like an impromptu match, but Kofi was having. He had like a segment before the show started, and now he had another segment when he comes back out to the crowd to give people gifts and stuff. But he'll be attacked by Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni. As I forgot, like he gave them cold earlier in the night, and so he would attack. They would attack him, and this would bring out Jey Uso, who would come for the save and challenge Ludwig Kaiser to a match. This is what we got. Jey Uso versus Ludwig Kaiser, which was a pretty good impromptu match. Nothing special here. Nothing too much to talk about. It was pretty good spots. Pretty spot on usual answers from Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni. But Jey Uso will win thanks to the reappearance of Kofi Claus. And Jey Uso will win with a spear and a splash. This will lead into our main event. After this is what I said earlier, that Judgment Day made fun of JD for losing to R-Truth. This is the part when that happens, and then we'll get the main event, which is Judgment Day versus the Creed brothers for the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships. Also, the Creed brothers had a backstage interaction with Cody Rhodes. But this was the match I said that was also just as good as the Gunther versus Miz match. Only thing that was holding this match back, the major thing, was that it happened it happened with 20 so minutes left. They took the first 10 just for backstage promos and doing stuff, and they only gave them 20 minutes, which was less for us because we got commercial breaks. But yeah, this was the last 20 minutes, so they had to really go and rush some spots. But it was even with the rush stuff because they only had 20 minutes left, and it was pretty good. It still was a good match, and that's why I said Gunther versus The Miz was the best because this only had so much time to go. But it had great spots, just as great as near falls and story building. And at times you thought the Creed brothers was taking this, but in the end, the Judgment Day would keep their tag team goals and beat the Creed brothers. But hey, it's only up here for the Creed brothers. And speaking of ups, this was a decent episode of Monday Night Raw. Nothing too boring, nothing too bad. A couple of stuff was rushed. A couple of stuff could have been cut short for a time, so the main event could have more time. But other than that, nothing. I have nothing to say about anything that happened on this card, promo wise or not. So I'm gonna say this is a 7. Just because not everything felt perfect. So I can't give it an 8 or a 9, but I'm gonna give it a solid. Now I mean a solid 7 out of 10. Big ups. You let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and if you enjoy my reaction to this. And this video still long, 20 some. I still managed to make this video 20 some minutes, but you enjoy my reaction and you want to see more of my WWE reviews, you know what to do. You hit this button right here. Oh, bam! For all of my WWE. I did like this still. I corrected myself and still did this like I was going to say season 3. All of my WWE reviews. And if you enjoy my videos so much and want to support the channel, you know what to do, guys. Hit those buttons, and as always, hit one of these videos for more of my amazing content. But don't go anywhere, because I got more coming for you. Peace.